My name is Aaron Stoffer, and here at AMG, we pride ourselves on being able to provide a resource to our clients that can be relied upon to deliver top-notch analytics and tools to help manage the balance sheet and contribute to the bottom line. In fact, AMG customers already have 80% of the data needed to be able to run a CECL model currently. Our goal is to help you get to 100% and provide a roadmap to get you to implementation. We have heard from regulators that at this point, a roadmap is what they are looking for. Is your data CECL ready? Do you have a plan to get it there? If it isn't, can you document the steps you have taken and the steps you have left to take to get there? This webinar will help you address those questions and show you how you can get your data ready without necessarily paying for a full CECL model before you actually need it. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Dan Melchior.
Thanks, Aaron. While many of you may not have heard of Argus, we have been in the financial services, analytics, data management, and regulatory reporting area for over 20 years. We are a world leader in financial institution data analytics, modeling, forecasting, regulatory reporting, and data management with offices around the world: New York, London, Singapore, Melbourne, Bangalore. And in the US, we work with all of the top 10 banks, 17 of the top 20, and dozens of others. We also work with 2 of the top 3 credit unions in the US. Now, as you can see, our 4 primary areas of expertise are listed, but today we are only interested in the risk and compliance and regulatory reporting services. Our topics of discussion in today's presentation: we will review the current environment for CECL, or current expected credit loss, including a little background, current status, and an outline of the CECL implementation process. We will then walk through the more tactical steps of the CECL implementation process, some factors you should consider when picking your CECL solution, and finally, the finer points of the qualitative and environment factors and macroeconomic adjustments required in CECL reporting. On June 17, 2016, the Financial Accounting Standards Board, FASB, issued the current CECL standard. Along with that, as with most initial regulatory issuances, there was great uncertainty around many aspects of the requirements. First, what is a PBE? Then what is a PBE SEC filer versus a non-filer? And who is a non-PBE? Well, a PBE is just simply a public business entity. The key difference between a PBE and a non-PBE is that PBEs have issued publicly traded securities and non-PBEs are privately held. Beyond that, if you need more definitive answers to determine where you're institutionalized, we advise that you consult your accounting or legal partner. Additionally, FYB means fiscal year beginning, or in this case, in the original statement, CECL becomes required for PBE SEC filers in their first fiscal year, which begins after December 15th, 2019, with initial reporting by March 31, 2020. With this original standard announcement, many questions were raised. What data do I need to compile? How much data do I need? What types of analysis, modeling, and forecasting am I required to perform? Can I calculate this in a spreadsheet, or must I use a model? Will I do this in-house or hire an external firm? How will I compile the possibly larger reserves in such a short amount of time? Where do I even start? And countless more. Well, since the original declaration, there has been some proposals, which everybody's expecting to be accepted, is that non-PBEs will be required to begin CECL reporting a year after PBE non-filers, and capital accumulation to meet the new CECL calculated required capital can begin after implementation and can take up to 3 years. But that still leaves a lot of questions. So first of all, compiling and cleansing your data. That's where we need to start, and that is going to take a lot of time. By starting now, non-PBEs will be able to compile 3 years of data before they must fully implement CECL. And fortunately, 3 years is a minimum number of years recommended, with 3 to 5 years being the full recommended window. One good piece of news is that at this time, you are not required to identify how you will determine your CECL calculation. In other words, whether you will do it internally or hire a third party, and what type of calculation method you will use, spreadsheets versus a model. You can make those decisions later. For your first 2 years, you should focus on your data and understanding the credit risk characteristics of your loan portfolios. Year 3 should then focus on performing parallel runs between your ALLL, or allowance for loan and lease losses, and your ACL, or allowance for credit losses. The phrase ACL has begun to be used more widely to immediately distinguish the difference between old methodology and new methodology calculated allowances. So we will use ACL in much of this presentation. Okay, for a more tactical view, your steps in year 1 should identify the variables or pieces of data you will need to perform the CECL calculation. You will then need to find where every variable is located. They may not all be in your current primary system of record. You will then compile the data, assess its quality, and identify the gaps in your data. You will have to clean bad data and populate missing data. You will also have to create a process which is documented, is easily repeatable, and auditable. Year 2, you will place your data into appropriate pools and begin to determine which analytical methodology is best for each pool. In year 3, you need to run your 2 systems in parallel. Create multiple scenarios, including the impacts of Q&E factors and economic forecast. If additional capital reserves are required, a capital accumulation plan must be created. And of course, you must train all persons involved. Now a little bit deeper on what that all means. Starting now provides years of data for CECL analysis and calculation. So let's dig a little deeper and discuss what you must do in year 1. In year 1, you must focus on your data assessment. As discussed on the prior slide, you must perform a data assessment, analyze the data quality, and begin your journey of completing your CECL readiness. In your data assessment, you will need to not only identify your current and historical data, but also how you will integrate it into your CECL process. You must also work to standardize your ongoing data loads to ensure repeatability while incorporating the ability to audit the process. For your data quality analysis, you must not only ensure it is complete or supposedly, quote, all of the data is there, you must also ensure it makes sense. In other words, first, ensure there is no data. For instance, is it the right data type? Is it within expected thresholds? In your data remediation process, it is recommended to track your performance with supporting analysis and reporting, and to seek guidance or assistance when you have issues. And finally, as you are getting your data ready, begin to think of the different risk characteristics by portfolio. Also begin to think of possible subpools for a given loan type, which may have different risk characteristics. And continue to educate yourself on your next steps and stay abreast of the recent expert opinions and interpretations. Okay, so what exactly is required for data quality? At AMG and Argus, we believe it consists of 4 main areas: accuracy, consistency, validity, and completeness. To make sure your data quality meets all 4 of these criteria, the AMG Argus service provides a variety of reports to assist you in that process. Here's an example for data completeness reporting. It breaks out the records by variable or attribute name over here to the left and shows exactly how many blank records, non-blank records, or 0 value records you have. You can then drill down to determine if the records with blanks are valid and if the records with 0 values are also valid. So you don't have to print off countless sheets of pages of record level data and manually review to audit your data. Here's an example of one of our standard reports for checking accuracy. In this report, we show the distribution of risk rating code with each of the cited values, in this case, 0 through 9. If a blank, NA, or a zip code happen to be in the risk rating code cell for one of your records, it would be shown here. You'd be able to easily identify it and go correct it. For consistency, we have the data consistency report. It shows a month-over-month view of several attributes. Now we can change this to by quarter or whatever your reporting period is. It doesn't have to be month by month. All of these are very flexible. This report can be is very helpful with documenting the progress you are making as you compile and clean your data. This is the type of auditable information on the progress of your data compilation and readiness that your auditors will love to see. All right, now year two. In year two, you must now take the data you've been compiling and begin to review the risk characteristics to group your loans into pools and possibly subpools. You should continue your education process and dig deeper to understand and interpret your regulatory requirements. At this point, we are often asked about why does a bank have to fully understand all these regulations and make risk characteristic judgments? Well, the number one reason is that regulators require you to understand the analysis on your balance sheet, which drives your CECL ACL number. And the second reason is that no one else knows the risk characteristics of your balance sheet better than you. Now, this brings up a key point. You must, absolutely must, understand the analysis and pooling behind your CECL ACL number. So the CECL solution you choose must be transparent and easy for you to explain to your auditors and regulators. If you cannot, you will not pass. An example, which happened just a couple of years ago to some of the country's largest banks, is a great example. One of the larger consulting firms came out with the first CECL model. Being the first on the street, they were able to sign a number of the largest banks, even a few of our competitors. But once implemented, the auditors and regulators came in and asked the banks to explain how they calculated their ACL number. When the banks asked the third party to explain their methodology, they refused. They said their model was proprietary information and they wouldn't explain it. Unfortunately for them, and fortunately for us, our clients came right back to us. So the auditors made that an absolute with that judgment and what they required the large banks to do. So documentation and auditable processes must be locked down at this time, getting towards the end of year two into year three. I cannot overemphasize the importance of this. We've had auditors tell us that they are not modelers and all they will do is audit the process to compile and report on the data. Therefore, all they can attest to is whether or not they believe you have a sound, auditable process and that you are following the requirements you have established. So finally, you can begin to get a sense of the magnitude of your ACL number with all this work, and if you need to develop a plan to build your reserves. Oh, there you go. Year three, you must have your data compiled and cleaned and your processes developed and documented. Now, this is where the rubber hits the road. This is where the research and education of the standards must be completed. It is time to apply what you've learned to your portfolios and the data you've compiled and cleaned. Wouldn't it be great to have a resource to assist with that? Well, with AMG as your partner and your participation in the boot camp, as we call it, you can have that. This is not something I advise you on in order for you to ask other vendors how they do it, because this is the only service like this available. You can ask questions and participate in discussions with peers and experts in the CECL boot camp. You can share your learnings and read about others' learnings. You can leverage a centralized CECL knowledge portal with white papers, regulatory articles, webinars, all types of resources. And of course, you will receive individualized attention. So we'll let you take a quick look at that. Here's the homepage for the CECL boot camp. As you can see, it has a real social media feel to it. You can start your own discussion or ask a question. Recent discussions are posted for easy access. You can also browse discussions and other resources by top categories. Now, in a discussion or question, after you read it, you can like it at the bottom. You can mark it as follow, and you will be notified via email when new responses are posted. Or at the end of the discussion, you can add your own post and comment on the discussion, provide an answer, or ask an additional question on the same topic. Up here, under all resources, you can see you can view webinars. This is just a sampling of what all we have out there. Presentations and white papers that have been written and posted here as just examples. All right. So the benefits of starting now. You can show your auditor and regulators you have begun the process before or in early 2019. You can report on progress made against the plan throughout 2019, 2020, and 2021. You will lay the foundation by compiling and cleaning your data while postponing a decision on your CECL model until you are ready. As you compile your data, you can leverage the discussion and collaboration portal and resource library to prepare you for your CECL model decisions. And you can do this for less than half the cost of a full CECL solution using the Argus Bootcamp service. So really, you're just paying for what you're using. If it's going to take you a great deal of time to compile and clean your data, that's the only part of the service that you will be paying for. All right, for CECL Solution. Now, even though this presentation is focused on your CECL needs in 2019, we thought we should share some items to consider as you are making your decision on your CECL solution. Now, the way we look at it is if you are going to the trouble of compiling and cleansing years of data and setting up an ongoing process, why not use it for more than just regulatory reporting purposes? With a CECL solution, it should help you integrate disparate sets of data into a centralized data hub. The data can be used for regulatory reporting, but all this data you've worked so hard on compiling should also be able to be used to help you run your business. You can see within our CECL solution, you have operational reports and executive dashboards that are preloaded and ready for you to use. And you have the options for customized reporting and dashboards if you would like to do that. You could make this your complete system of record of all of your data to help run the business. So, in the way we look at it, having worked with the largest banks, whenever we help them implement this type of process, we always like to make sure it's end-to-end, and if you're going to go to a lot of work, what all can you leverage from it? So, as you are reviewing CECL solutions, make sure it is not a one-trick pony that limits you in the number of analytical methodologies and the uses of all of your hard work. Now, we've stated you should compile and clean your data, but we have not explicitly said you must also trust your data. With the steps we have reviewed in a partnership with AMG, you will achieve that goal of trust, not only for yourselves, but also for your auditors and regulators. So besides fully utilizing your data and trusting your data, you must make certain a CECL solution can perform the 4 key functions. Can it assist with the process management of your CECL reporting? A CECL solution should be flexible enough to easily integrate into your existing processes without having to completely rewrite and restructure them. Does your CECL solution have a business focus? Our solution provides a number of easy-to-use interfaces to load, correct, and manage data. Is this solution audit ready? Our solution tracks all changes and compiles them into a summary report when you are ready to submit the next quarter's CECL submission. It clearly tracks what you've changed from the last submission to the most current submission for easy reference. Does the solution you're looking at allow you to make notes, comments, and place attachments throughout the model that can be added to help you keep track of assumptions behind changes being made? So if you did some ad hoc analysis outside of the solution as you were cleaning up the data, you can attach that directly into our solution right at the spot that it makes most sense of which loan types were in that one-off analysis. Finally, you should make sure that the solution is compliant with regulatory requirements. Our solution allows you to meet all regulatory requirements within the solution. No need to export any information and transform it. It can also support all Q&E adjustments and easily integrate macroeconomic projections. So when selecting a CECL solution, make sure that it can support multiple analytical methodologies for both collective evaluation, or the analysis of your pools, and individual evaluation for troubled loans. A solution should also have the following features: data assessment and data upload. That's not just during your data compilation of historical data, but ongoing as you load data for every reporting period. The solution should allow virtually unlimited number of pools to adequately analyze and forecast by risk characteristics. The solution should be workflow-based so that it molds to your process and does not disrupt it. The solution should provide virtually unlimited scenario capabilities so you can create as many scenarios as you want to learn your portfolio's behavior and to substantiate your assumptions. With this capability, you can do a half a dozen, a dozen, 24 different scenarios on perhaps the largest loan portfolio on your book, testing different analytical methodologies to see which one does the best job of more accurately reflecting what you believe is the true forecast of expected losses. And you can also do like elasticity analysis to say to your auditor and regulator, we performed these 6 different scenarios to see how this loan portfolio would perform in these different situations. So we can see if it does or does not, how dispersed are the answers. And with that support, you can then show why you picked the scenario you did to be included in the regulatory submission. Your solution, when you look at them, should also have a database of peer data already incorporated into the solution to allow you to compare your bank's performance with other banks and to substantiate your assumptions. This is not a few pieces of data. In our solution, we have over 5 years of UVPR data already loaded. So no need, if you have a thin portfolio or a new product, to go to another source to understand the possible performance of your portfolio. You can get that right in this tool, no extra charge. The solution should have preloaded reports and dashboards to allow you to fully utilize the data and to submit all required regulatory submissions. Now, we'll take a quick look at the CECL demo here. Now, across the top, you can see the workflow structure of cycle start or data loading, review for upper management review, make sure everything looks in line, calculation, the work where the analysts spend their time, the closure or final review, once the analysts are done, to send it back for being signed off, and then cycle close or submission. Now, you can see here that this pool structure of this example is by loan type. Your structure can be as simple or as complex as you would like it. That is what the flexibility with this solution has, and that's what you should look for. There is then the individual valuation for troubled loans, and then for TDRs or troubled debt restructurings or loans that are troubled, which have also been restructured. You can look at those individually. Those are requirements of the CECL calculation. Now, we'll take a quick look here at the residential mortgage 1 to 4 family loans. Now, in this pool, you can see that with the pooling flexibility in this tool, there are multiple subpools that we could take this pool and break out even further by risk. And in this example, 2 scenarios have already been created with different assumptions. So very easy to keep track of. This clearly illustrates the capability to customize your analysis to more accurately reflect the true risk characteristics of your balance sheet. It is not a black box or a single analytical methodology or one-size-fits-all tool. Now, do you have to make it this complex? No, but it does give you that capability. All right, back to the presentation. Now, here's one thing that not many people have started talking about, but we already have incorporated into our solution, is that when you're looking at a CECL solution, you need to make sure that the ability to incorporate the Q&E factors and how to handle and make adjustments to macroeconomic indicators can be easily done within the model. You can't swag it outside of the solution that you end up using and try to do an overlay. That has not been well received in questions being asked of auditors and regulators. All right, we can see from past ALLL calculations, we're all familiar with Q&E factor adjustments. These adjustments take into account qualitative factors such as changes in lending policies, changes in economic conditions, and changes in the experience and ability of lending management. Q&E factors are an integral part of the CECL ACL calculation, and they will be scrutinized by the auditors. The estimation of the Q&E impact must be based on actuals and often requires quantitative analysis to support qualitative adjustment, or the mixture of art and science. Any adjustments made must include support and or possibly updated policy documentation. Now below here is a screenshot of the AICPA Q&E factors already loaded into the AMG Argus solution for you to easily select the Q&E factor and, if required, subfactors. And then with a simple click, have it incorporated into your calculations throughout your model. And you can do this at the entire balance sheet level, or you can do it at each pool level. You can do it either way. As we said, make it as simple as you want or as complex as you want. Now, here we are showing another preloaded sample report, the macroeconomic correlation report. On the left is highlighted by the red circles are 2 macroeconomic factors, 3-month LIBOR and the U.S. Housing Price Index, when compared to the quarterly loss rate. Across the page, highlighted by the yellow circle, is the lag correlation of same time period and lag periods of 1, 2, and 3. The graphs are a plot of the macroeconomic factors and the quarterly loss rates. Another of the tools and features you should be looking for to help you fully understand your CECL ACL calculation and easily substantiate it for regulators and auditors. Now, this is one of my favorite reports. This is the attribution report. This clearly lays out the driving factors for the difference between the CECL ACL in the last period, shown here, versus the CECL ACL in the current period. Red bars, which increased the CECL ACL, and green bars are factors which decreased the CECL ACL. As you can see, the originations added to the CECL ACL number, while the risk characteristics reduced the CECL ACL number. Forecasts raised it again, then Q&E adjustments raised it again, then a charge-off adjustment lowered it just a little bit to where the new CECL current period can be easily explained. Transparency, easy to use, preloaded reports that help you run your business and help you save time. I think this is one of the best examples. And it's very clear for senior management and your board of directors to see why your CECL number changed and why your allowance possibly increased or decreased. All right. Now with that, Afton, do you want to close for us or have any questions?
Yes, we did have a couple of questions come in. Dan and Aaron, since AMG and Argus are very active in this area across the country, what are you hearing from the regulators?
Well, Afton, that's a good question. Actually, I was in Nebraska a couple weeks ago, and one of the examiners up in Nebraska did a presentation just on this and what they expect of banks, and they provided a checklist, which I'm happy to provide anybody who wants it. I can pass that along. But it really was her talk was everybody's going to be in this together, learning along the way. But it's really having a defined checklist that you can follow, and what steps are you taking to achieve compliance with this regulation, and are you achieving those milestones along the way, along your timeline? And really that is what they're looking for, that to be in compliance with CECL in the data collection phase.
Okay, and another question, what are you finding as some of the greatest challenges in getting started?
The greatest challenge has been just that, simply getting started. And that's why we wanted to put on this webinar, and we hope that what we've outlined today will help everyone with that challenge. You know, where to start, what your first key steps are, and what is on the horizon.
Okay, looks like we have one other question that came through. If you guys have any additional questions, feel free to go ahead and type them out in the question box. Last one, the CECL solution seems to be very comprehensive. Do you believe a solution such as this is right for everyone?
Oh, that's a good question. Now, as with any solution, for a business need as complicated as this, there's really no one-size-fits-all answer. But while we have a number of smaller institutions utilizing the boot camp service and the CECL model, many of them under $200 million in size. And remember, it's not just the asset size that determines who should utilize a service like ours, the AMG Argus CECL solution. There are a couple of factors. First, that the institutions, especially smaller, have a numbers-driven board or a numbers-driven senior management or both. Those are the ones that really like our solution because it's very transparent, they own it, they can make the changes they need. We've also found that institutions that don't want to do this twice, really. Somebody commented that to me before. Appreciate the ability to start out simple with our solution, hand being held as you're gathering your data to reduce cost, then using the model simple at the beginning, and then as their bank grew, and then as we all can expect, as regulators are of course going to begin to require more and more around CECL reporting, that this tool is comprehensive, it's scalable, intuitive, and will ensure that you don't outgrow a simpler solution and then you have to start all over again. That has come back to us a number of times. And as we said earlier, our one-of-a-kind boot camp absolutely makes the CECL preparation process simple, easy to start, and a great partner in assisting with this, almost monumental task for a lot of institutions. And I said, it helps you get started, and it helps the regulators and auditors see that you are making forward progress and you have a plan in 2019. So we can help you get your data organized, house your data, give you the reports to clean it, make it ready at a reduced cost, and when you're ready to start doing the pooling and running scenarios, then the full cost would come in. So if people are looking for those types of attributes, they're numbers driven, it's scalable and will grow with your institution, and there's an end-to-end solution of implementation and ongoing usage. This is what's right for everyone, if they are looking for a solution that can help them with that.
Well, and to add on to that, the boot camp allows you to scrub your data and get it ready. And at the point of implementing a CECL product, you can take your data and go to any CECL solution, whether that be the BankPath, AMG's Argus solution, or whatever solution that's out there. But it's essentially a half step or a two-step process. And right now, the data collection and scrubbing is definitely what the regulators are looking and focusing on.
Okay, we did have another question come through. In data gathering, is quarterly recommended, or how often should you gather your data?
Well, I mean, that's a good question. I mean, obviously, the more granular and timely that you're gathering that data, the more intricate you can be in your calculation. But your calculation, you're only filing that number once a quarter. So we'll find that the majority of the time, quarterly is going to be the timeline that you'll need. I mean, as you only need your number calculated for call report purposes at that point.
Right. Having done analysis on huge amounts of data for 25 plus years, you need to make the decision on what's right for your institution. Obviously, more data the better, but the regulators implemented this type of CECL reporting because this is what the big banks do, and they truly understand how their portfolio behaves, and they can look out forward and see possible peaks and valleys in capital requirements and plan for that accordingly. That is the whole reason behind this type of requirement, is to make sure that you can withstand the peaks and take advantage of the valleys without them just suddenly coming upon you and not having adequate time to prepare for it. So of course, if that's the type of analysis and the way you want to use this data, would recommend monthly, ongoing, and if you can compile it that way, and then ongoing to do it monthly, then it's easier to have the process if you're doing it monthly instead of just quarterly. As we said at the end, everybody expects the regulators over time to start asking for more and more and more. And if you have your data gathered at monthly, you'll be more prepared for that. You will have already gone through that trouble, and you'll have the process set up so that you can do it. If you gather the data at monthly, but then to do your reporting, you just sum it up for the quarters, that's perfectly fine. But if you want to do the analysis to substantiate your assumptions, which I'm sure everybody wants, their allowance to be as low as possible, the more data you have, the easier it is to convince your auditors and regulators that your number should be the low number that you placed in front of them. So you have to weigh that. You have to weigh that. But that's the big benefit at the end, is after all that work and the ability to create virtually unlimited number of pools and virtually unlimited number of scenarios, showing you know your data. That will help you keep your allowance low.
All right, thank you, Dan and Aaron. That is all the questions that we have come in today. If you guys have any additional questions, feel free to reach out to Dan and Aaron. Their email addresses are on the last slide. Once again, I want to thank you guys all for attending today's webinar. I hope you are able to take away some important information. Thank you again. You guys have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.